Okay, guys, so enough about me. We don't have time about me today because I brought you so much I have to show you today that I can't wait to get there. Now, guys that you were there yesterday at my workshop, I would kindly ask you to not participate in this one, but all the others. How many of you guys have heard of experience mapping? Anyone? Cool stuff. The others. Have you guys heard of a user journey map? Yeah? Well, then you know what experience mapping is pretty much, or service blueprint, or whatever. I'll show you a few. The way I put it simply, there are a few definitions out there. People differentiate between experience maps and why journeys are different. Seriously, you see, I'm not so big about linguistics. I think it matters what we do, not so much what we call it. The calling is for the other people to understand it, right? So the way I put it, it's pretty much experience mapping is taking someone's experience. And experience can be a process going through something, but experience can also just happen here, right? So we're systematically researching and depicting what people are going through, no matter if physically going through something or what goes through their mind. That's also experience. That's actually the bigger part of an experience. And guys, highly recommend any one of you who've heard my talk, that's the Bible for all these methods. Highly recommend the book from Jim. I've had the honor to learn firsthand from Jim, but you guys are lucky he's written a book. My favorite book, because it's full of images. It's full of examples. It's really, therefore, is the Bible. Jim doesn't just give you the guidance of how to go about the different methods, which I will also try to give you about 3 at least, but he also shows you from a super old example, really like an almost medieval map, to something that's today, super modern. So it's very inspirational, highly recommended. No matter what method you pick, guys, experience mapping is the overarching term. No matter what exact method for mapping experiences you pick, more or less you always end up with 3 layers. Let's face it, we are user human-centered, so always the first layer, always is the user or the human. No-brainer, right? Then we do have some sort of an organizational representation there, right? So we have the human, we have the organization, and now we need somehow the connector layer between these two. Be it channels, touch points, interactions, whatever, the connector between these two distinct layers with, as we heard, very different goals, very different ideas. So guys, the 3 types I've brought you today are pretty much, I would say, the most popular. Most of you have heard of the customer user journey. A service blueprint now has, again, every 10 years, the service design and the service blueprint has a revival, pretty much. And I think now is, again, kind of a hype for service design. So I brought you the service blueprint. And what did you expect from a psychologist? The mental model diagram we're going to talk about today. How do these differ, guys? They're all experience maps, but the customer journey gives that full focus to the human layer. What happens there, you know, details, that's the bigger focus. The service blueprint, on the other hand, again starts with the human on top, human user-centered, but expands much more in that organizational layer. What does the organization do in every step or stage of the process, the experience of the user, to make it happen? Yeah? And then, guys, I brought you the mental model diagram because it's really very different than the other 2. I wanted to show you the spectrum because, at least at the beginning, when you go out and you try to pick the brains of people, like not literally, yeah? Not ethical, unfortunately, you try to pick the brains of people. This is some neurobiologist and neuropsychologist fun. I appreciate you like it. But you stay away from solutions at that stage. You just try to see how people think. So you see, I've added a tiny bit of the organizational layer because my client will just give the context or the topic I'm picking people's brains to, right? But stay away from solutions. However, guys, once you are ready with the mental model exploration and you have some big picture, this is where the organizational layer starts coming and growing. So it's a process, as Danny showed as well. And the beauty of all these methods, guys, is that you're incredibly flexible. You can start with something like before people come to us, during they do something with our offering, and after, that high level. And then take the before and make an own map, if you need to, right? But same way, guys, it works, and that is why I hate calling it all the different methods, but I call it experience mapping. Because very often, you start with a customer journey, but then you have a few elements of a mental model in there. Or you might start with a customer journey and then grow it to a service blueprint. Yeah? Or as I guys just showed you on the mental model diagram, you start with something, and then during the process, it grows to another map. Yeah? Oh, you can't really see them well, but now, imagine you guys walk into a new company that has quite a complex service offering. And your hiring manager says, sorry, we don't have time for onboarding, you have to do it alone. And you guys are offered to go through a graphic that promise you looks better if the contrast is better and the lights are off. But there is a graphic describing the service offering, and there is a wonderful research repository. Which one would you like to go through? You have to do it on your own. Which one would you prefer so that you get a real understanding of what's happening there? Right? Unless you are visually impaired. All of us, you know the saying, guys, a picture says 1,000 words. Yes, it's great to have research repositories. It's a nicely covered Excel sheet. Not everyone likes Excel sheets, yeah? So of course, graphic works well, visuals work well, and guess what, guys, not just for us, for our colleagues, our clients, our users as well, for humans. Then, guys, often you kind of start to know that service, oh my gosh, it feels like this jigsaw puzzle with 10,000 pieces, right? And that is a great tool for, as we just had it, as a new starter to understand what this company is trying to achieve and how. Instead of reading these like requirements, documents, research repository, it's an easier way. It gives you orientation much faster. But also, if you're a very niche employee, it shows you how your work impacts the entire user experience. It gives you purpose of your work. And guys, without that big picture, also on the jigsaw puzzle, you know, without the picture on the front, good luck making sense out of a single piece. Your landing page or your checkout. It's stepping in the dark. You'll be like, oh, thoughts and prayers, what we do sticks. Yeah? It's not informed decisions. You might be lucky, but most probably not. And then, guys, what did you expect? Of course, I'm going to talk about humans and brains a little bit. If you don't prioritize from humans' point of view, Danny said it, and it's super important, guys. If we just do everything we can do, well, then you fall into catching featureitis. That awful disease where you brag about all your technical capabilities, like Word 2001 wonderfully demonstrates here, but you forget the user along the way. Can you guys imagine what a great experience it is to write big articles in here? But you have all these capabilities, yeah? It's not a cool disease, I tell you. It's like, it looks hilarious from the side. Don't fall for that, guys. You need to prioritize from people's point of view. Now, if common sense is not really your thing, I'm kidding you guys. If the guys you need to get buy-in from are not really the common sense people. They like numbers. I guarantee you they like numbers. And you're welcome, but don't thank me. It's the Aberdeen group who did a marketing research. Late 2016, they published it just when I was putting that talk together, and I was like, thank you, finally numbers to my preachings, and Jim's preachings. And guys, we're not gonna go through the research, but I wanna point you at 3 of the figures here. Remember I told you, experience maps are great for onboarding new people, giving purpose to already existing employees. So it's not a surprise that almost 15% employee engagement, you get a raise, if you have a customer journey program, they manage it, an experience map program. You keep it up to date. You don't just do it once and forget it somewhere there, but you do it, you keep it up to date. It leads to almost 15%, as I said, employee engagement. Beat that with all the team events and stuff. Like, seriously, you just need to give people big picture and orientation, what they're dealing with, what they're part of. Then, guys, the ones of you who work with budgets, you know what these 2 numbers mean. Like over 8% return on marketing investment, just because you grasp the big picture and you keep it up to date. That's simple. And then, guys, I hope you're sitting tight, you are. 23%, almost a quarter, improvement in customer support costs. Beat that, seriously. And then, sorry, I forgot to say, because of all these internal great effects, guess what? People start talking positively about you, they start referring you, your crossing up sale goes up. So overall, you become 16% better in your average sales cycle. It's money. It means money. It's lucrative. Now, that's the part I couldn't wait to come to, but I need a super quick sip of water, because otherwise my mouth's gonna stick together. That's actually, oops, that's actually what I brought you guys. I can't wait, because it's examples from my work, right? And I brought you 3, because unfortunately we don't have time for more. And for a quick orientation for the 3 examples, I've also brought you my rule of thumb, roughly which method to choose. Because, guys, when we deal with a lot of information, no matter if we are going to kick off a project with a big research effort, and are going to gather a lot, from also analytics, marketing, customer support, all our colleagues have data. So one thing is to start gathering that data or to already deal with existing data. Then I would go with an experience map. As I told you, I use the term interchangeably, kind of the overarching term. I would start with just mapping what's there and in what rough process it fits. As I told you, before, during, after is a good start at the beginning, and then it refines through the data. The second case is very interesting, that's why I brought it to you, and different, because this is the only thing in which I differ from Jim. Jim would do everything as a workshop. I do only service blueprints as workshops. And I'll show you why, guys, in a second. And then I told you the third, which is super dear to my heart as a psychologist, is when we are dealing with something super new, not out there on the market, innovation, breaking innovation, or we are targeting new people, or we have new business partner, new stakeholders on board. Then you want to pick their brains, yeah? So the first case, guys, few years back, actually, February 2020. Remember what was February, just before Corona, yeah? And I meet with a client, a business owner of a small startup, 4-people startup. And he's like, Martina, we have 2 types of customers. And the one type of customers, we talk to them, they tell us what to do, we do it, all perfect, works. And I'm like, you guys do research, oh my gosh. I'm backing you up, what do you need? And he's like, well, this other type of customers. We talked to them a bit of a like business. They were students who were working well with feedback and all of that, and professors who tell them what to do, they'll do it, and the professor will be like, still doesn't care. So these guys were like, we need help. And I was like, come to mama. I need to talk to these professors. Get me professors for online meetings, for interviews. I need to talk to these guys. I need to pick their brains. So guys, this was literally 27th or 8th of February. 2 days later, worldwide lockdown. In the 2 weeks of lockdown, this guy managed to get 12 professors on board. Mind you guys, we talked to a professor from Wuhan. We talked to a professor from Spain, from Denmark. It was just madness what these people go through in 2 weeks of lockdown. But most importantly, they were pushing their kids away after 2 weeks because they wanted to talk to me, to someone else than their family. So these research sessions were gold mine, were really valuable. And then, guys, we had these 12 interviews, but during the process of extracting the raw data, I realized 2 of the cases are really outlier. So I ended up consolidating all that data from 10 interviews. And what you see after all the 12 interviews, very important, sleep a night over, don't underestimate the power of your subconscious and its problem solvings. Yeah? So sleep a night over, the next day you get up, all these 10, 12 people kind of melted into one. You can't tell who said what, right? And that's great. That's a great start. So on top, what you see, the gray and the black, that's my rough structure, the first thing I put there. That structure is given from the interviews I did with people. I knew what I asked them. I asked them about their teaching journey, but then, guys, also I asked them about their mindsets to certain topics. So I picked their brains, yeah? And then what you see underneath is a few yellow post-its, a few images, there will be also blue post-its coming next to them, very few pink ones, and a few green ones. The yellow is actions, images and blue I use for touch points, then there is pain points, and underneath I put thoughts and feelings, all the rest that happens here in the brain. And that, guys, is after these 12 interviews, what I heard from everyone. Right? So what I knew, I heard pretty much from everyone. I'll just put it there, that's my start. Now, I start going through the interview recordings, and here you see already I've gone through the first and second interview, pale pink and pale green, which you see like pale yellow. But this and this are already the raw data, the extracts from the first and second interview. And then, guys, you see interview by interview. Yeah, it's madness. Nothing you can put in front of your colleagues and be like, good luck, go figure it out. Doesn't work. So again, sleep a night over, very important. And the next day I get up, the end state, and then you see how I start making sense out of all this data. What are actions? You see, there is weight in this post-it. So how many people said? Of course, with 10 people, you can't put percentages behind it. But it's still one thing if 1 or 2 people said something, or if 7 or more said something. So what you see here is here, damn it. Come on, show the map. Everything becomes like that, guys. I don't know why it's not loading the full movie. It's so cool that I actually am proud of it, but of course it wouldn't load right now. All this data that you see here on the side starts really becoming like that, right? And Then I told you about the second case, right, which is very different from that, which is when you have clients or colleagues who say, oh, we know the user already. We don't need research. We don't have time, no money for research. Like, we know the user already. Heard of that before? Yeah? Well, when they know the user already, then let's see what they know. Get them in a room, put them on a table, start taking out that information that's implicit in their brains. Let's start aligning it and see where is the truth. Or what are their assumptions? What do we need to go out and reality check, truth check? Yeah, but then he said it's not really truth, it's close to the truth. It's not really the truth. Oh, damn it. It's the case of quite a few years back again, I joined a new company, and there are these intro meetings, you know, when you start a new company, all your colleagues. And I meet all these new heads of departments, my colleagues, and I'm like, these guys don't really talk to each other, I think. So I was like, okay, let me try and get them to a service blueprint workshop. And although I pitched to the head of e-commerce, I had her buy-in. Guys, it took me 1.5 months for these guys to find 4 hours, right? It's 7 heads of departments. Very busy people. But anyway, I got them in the room, and you see the wall behind me, right? So, very important, you always remember, guys, we start with the user, human on top. So first, I proposed to them a no-brainer e-commerce journey. You don't need any research to know that people need to know something before they decide to buy it. No-brainer, common sense, right? And because they wanted to have a focus on retention, I was like, here, the customer leaves, some time passes, and then they come back. Retention, journey, there you go, right? And then, guys, we go step by step into detail, what's happening in the organization, peeling the organizational layer, as I call it. And you see, out of 6 stages, we guys just managed 3.5. And it took me 1.5 months for these guys to find 4 hours. So I was dreading that moment at the end of the meeting to have to ask for a follow-up. But guess what? They've already seen the effect of what we are doing. So miraculously, their calendars emptied the week after. Woo! But guys, we were so concentrated in that second session that, excuse me, you have to see me with the same shirt. We didn't do even any photos. I have only photos from the first session because we were really that much into the work. And that was the map behind me, guys, that in that 1 week, I kind of started digitizing, so we have something we're flexible with, more tidy to work with. And they walked in the second week, and were like, oh, Martina, your map is old. And I'm like, guys, we did it last week. And they were like, well, in the first phase, this was the final map we had. And they were like, well, in the first phase, we already did internal optimizations. And I was like, something works here, yeah? And you guys unfortunately can't see, but the mess here and here, when I send you the slides, take again a look at that map, you see the mess there. And how just from one change, which I haven't even pushed for, they streamlined the first step much better. But that wasn't enough. They walked in the second week and said, oh, Martina, can we please put on top the promises we make to our customers and look at how well we fulfill them. Guys, human centricity within a week without me saying even once UX or trying to hammer it in their heads. They came with that, yeah? And then super quickly, don't kick me out, the last case, the one that I told you is super dear to my heart, because when a client comes and says, we had that groundbreaking innovation, Martina, help. And I'm like, there is nothing out there on the market you can compare with, guys, and learn from. So what do? You go out and check what people's perception is about it, how their brains stick to it, how do they imagine it. And that was the case again, oh, damn. You can't see it, but one of my former clients that I'm so proud of, Livy, they're a smart home client from Berlin. And these guys, we've done already before an empathy map, another experience map, prototypical persona for their investors. And a couple of months later, the investor came, so they won the investor. The investor came and said, guys, our salespeople see a great opportunity to create an additional device for elderly people, then we're gonna sell. Good that my client called me. I was like, great, guys. I took the co-founder, who is the marketing executive, and was like, let's go out. We need to talk to elderly people and see what they think about. Before afternoon, we found an elderly lady who lives alone, invited her to a coffee, got all the data we needed. In the afternoon, guys, we went to a small local shopping mall where the second floor is a coffee shop, the preferred meeting point for all the elderly people from the area. I was like, oh my gosh, this is gold mine. And they were all wanting to talk to us. It was amazing. It was such a heartwarming research. Guess what turns out, guys? The next day we came back to the office, we started mapping. You know already red is a problem, but also violet was a problem here. And you see, it was like, no chance, they're gonna toss us down the bin or smack us with a hammer, because they hated all devices that give them a feeling that they're becoming old, that they're not capable of doing something on their own. We found out. So, after a quick cigarette and kind of recuperate, because it's all that research went to waste, you'd feel, but no. We realized all these elderly guys had a Fitbit, a smartphone, a tablet. And I was like, these guys have more devices than me. How do you guys get these devices? And they were like, oh, my grown-up kit, pretty much. So us guys, we are the channel for our elderly parents to get to that new world. We were like, great, you know what? We already have 3 customers who turns out were in that situation, having an elderly relative living alone somewhere remotely. And we recruited 5 new customers, potential new customers, and we started looking at what's going in there. And what you see here, guys, is some marketing research that we did. Meantime, you know that process already, raw data from interviews. This time, though, it wasn't a process we were looking at. It was mindsets that we were examining, right? So I went for a mental model diagram, and you see, the moment that diagram was ready, I called the entire client, all 10, 12 people that they were, a slowly growing startup, and I was like, guys, let's look at your touch points. That at the beginning was the touch points of their partner, business partner. All the blue was what they currently have, and all the pale gray that you can see were the ones they wanted to build. Subsequent ideation session, because when you hear all these pain points, ideas start coming, problem-solving brains. We are problem-solving species. So we started mapping underneath all the ideas. Guys, partially I didn't understand what they're saying, these solutions. I was just noting it down because it was like, jQuery, whatever, I'm code allergic. I was like, guys, did I write it correctly? Okay, let's put it down, next idea. So by the time I left, they started pulling the ideas. Here are a few gray ones that you don't see. They descoped some of the ideas. The one that worked, they pulled them up and started building their concept. No product. These were their app screens, the black bubbles, and what happens around the app screens. So they ended up expanding their app offering. And guys, the map is a bit bigger, and you see, that was us, the grown-up kids. That was the elderly parent living alone. And that, at the end, was the police and fire department. So it actually led to a business partnership that ensured them the access to police and fire department. And then a while back, guys, I look at this map, and I'm like, wait, what's that here? They've copied the mindsets from above, and guess what? Mapped their marketing strategy. Remember, I went out with the marketing executive. Surprise! User-centered, human-centered marketing strategy. Without me saying, guys, you have to become more user-centered. No, they did it without me asking. So stars, big stars here for me. Because mission done, mission complete, guys. That's my mission, to make them user-centered. And because that wasn't enough, guys, last year, all over German media, there was the news that a son living in London has managed to save the life of his mom living somewhere in Bavaria from a fire in her home. Like, I'm so proud of them. Yeah? And that's all. Thank you.